Get comfortable for a short little bit here. Welcome to the latest Natchez community meeting update about our Natchez Fire that's on the hill right behind us here. So, a few little logistics thing. Of course, you came in the front door. We can go out that front door if we need to, and if something happens, we can go out this door and out through the kitchen area. And if we really have to, there is an exit out this direction that's a little more complicated. But those are the two primary ways out of the building. So, once again, my name is Scott Blower. I'm the acting district ranger here at Happy Camp. And for a few more days, and then on Tuesday, your new permanent district ranger, Jeremy Sullins, will be here. So tonight's my opportunity to say thank you for the time that I've got to spend here. It has been a real enjoyable time working for the forest and serving Happy Camp. And so it's going to be sad to leave when Jeremy gets here and we get fully transitioned with Jeremy and get him up to speed. But like I say, it's been a pleasure to come here. This is my backyard from Southern Oregon, and so it's been a lot of fun and whatnot. So tonight we're here to talk about the Natchez Fire. And so first of all, I'm going to introduce our forest. I'm going to try to do it right this time. And every meeting I've had a little blunder that we've created a little entertainment out of, and I'm going to try to leave with one good meeting. So tonight we're going to start with Patty Grantham as the forest soup.
Hi everybody.
Behind her is Josh Veal as our public affairs. B. Real is the acting deputy at the moment, helping me, being my right hand. Chris Sexton is the forest deputy. We have Dwayne here helping out with public affairs. We have Brian also here helping out with public affairs. My battalion chief, Gordon Myers. Am I missing anybody else from our force? No. Then we've got some special cooperators, partners of the district of the forest. We have your local fire chief, Eric Haskell. And then Gabe Garrison, your local community sheriff deputies as well here tonight. We're going to just turn it right over. You might recognize the next speaker here tonight. He's a IC trainee. He was here working for quite a few years on the district, and is here serving as the IC trainee for the current fire team, Aaron Shue.
Good morning, or good evening, everyone. Good morning. Just going to go over a quick situational update from when we got here on the 19th to where we are currently. The priority from when we got here on the 19th was to really get in here and secure this southeast corner above the Happy Camp area. The Northern Rockies group did a good job of anchoring this fire and getting it down and burned in and kept it from coming down into the town of Happy Camp. So our objective was to get in here and get this good secured. There was a good mile and a half of line that was still red in here when we first showed up. The ops folks did a great job of getting in here and identifying priorities and getting this contained. You can see it now that section of line is black. So moving further up into the north end of the fire, we continue to secure, mop up, snag. It's coming more now into where we're getting to do, we're doing a lot of suppression repair in this on this east side of the line. We still are in this area mopping up, securing, taking care of unburned islands that are down in this country. So we're still in here doing kind of all three, mopping up, securing the edge, patrolling, and doing suppression repair along the roads and dozer lines and hand lines that were put in to keep the fire from moving any further to the east. You've probably heard over the last couple of days, we've gone from a warning out here, evacuation warning, to completely lifting that. And we've gone to the 5 homes that are in this area here. We've kept that as a warning for those folks. So just feel good that the warning's been lifted. It's been lifted for basically all the hard work that the folks have gotten in here and done to secure this edge from moving any further towards Happy Camp and remove the threat from Happy Camp. Moving up and around the corner here, this Lima side has been all in patrol status since we've been here. It's looking really good. There's a few hot spots that folks are monitoring, but for the most part, this is looking really well. Moving down into where we have been actively suppressing the fire and keeping it within our planning area. We started a firing operation from Lookout Mountain and brought it back towards Mud Lake to secure this fire from moving towards Sunstar, the communities of Sunstar and Tacoma. And from there, we're turning south and bringing the fire down towards El Capitan to create kind of a box from this fire wrapping around and getting over into the south, the east fork of the Illinois River, and potentially, threatening Sunstar and Tacoma. So we're still actively working around, and this burnout that you see here, or ignitions that you see here, increased a little bit down towards the lieutenants today. So we got, we're starting to bring fire around the corner. We're taking it slow to get the mindset we want, and that the forest wants and the community wants to see. So we're just taking it slow as we move around the corner and down towards El Capitan. We have inserted some folks in here. You can see there's some gaps in this yellow line. This gap was filled in here with retardant. It's just inaccessible to get folks down in here. We moved down and we're able to put a helipod in here. We inserted the Klamath hotshots into this country, and they're cutting out the fuels to prevent fire spread through this area here, and to get it tied back up into natural barriers. And then from there, we're just basically concentrating on this corner to get it secured while we're here. So moving south, further south, a lot of this fire is still moving around. It's just inaccessible. It's not conducive to put folks into that country. So we're just letting it move around in here naturally. It's got a really good buffer from the 2017 fire eclipse scar that it can move down into. It will contain it. You can see the containment there for it not to come back into Happy Camp. So this continues to move around. This fire is roughly growing around 300 to 400 acres a day. It's not moving around a whole lot in here. So with the good effects that everyone's wanting to see as we continue. So that's just a quick situational update from us being here on the 19th to kind of where we're at now. I can answer questions, or we can jump into the slideshow that we have, and then wait to answer questions after the slideshow. Does that work? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh yes, sorry folks, I got to focus in on just the fire area. Since being here on the 19th, operations folks have been out here west of our planning area, which is in this the crest kind of in this area. We're out here on a contingency line, opening up this 4803 on the Rogue River Siskiyou. We're coming down towards this DP 40, which will transition onto the Six Rivers National Forest. We're using ridges and roads, good places to control and hold fire. And we're going to be working this section, this polka dotted section here, this black line, and work with hand crews and probably with hand crews to get this tied over into the eclipse fire. In case this wants to come out, we have a line ready to use in the event that this wants to move out of our planning area and further to the west. We've got same thing, contingency line that connects the dots with roads, hand lines, and stays to the south of Sunstar and gets tied back over into a good anchor spot, which is the north end of the Natchez. If something comes across in this area here, this is Dunn's Creek. If it comes across in Dunn's Creek, we have a closer contingency line that we could use possibly with dozer lines and roads up to natural barriers to corral anything that comes over into this Dunn Creek country back into the main fire. Sorry about that, forgot about the contingency part.
So do you want to get started with this? This is pretty much the same map that Aaron's been talking to you over there, and it just shows our current status, 26,702 acres, 70% contained, with all the black lines around the edges that are contained. A lot of work that's going on in this area that's contained. He mentioned we're doing backhaul and repair. Many of you saw that when the sheriff's order went down, then we're able to recollect a lot of this equipment and check it out and return it to the fire cache so it can be deployed to other incidents. There's also a little bit of work that occurs on the fire lines to make sure that they're safe from erosion and stabilized. Here's some pictures of the work that Aaron talked about, the containment line from Mud Lake to Polar Bear Mountain. So the last community meeting we had, August 21st, you remember, we were concerned that the fire, this is a map from that meeting, we were concerned that the fire could come out and sweep over towards the east fork of the Illinois River and threaten those communities. So that was the 21st. This is today a close-up of that line that's been built from Polar Bear Mountain to Lookout Mountain and over towards Mud Lake. This is what it looked like I showed you on August the 21st at that meeting. Just a skinny little line was dug along that ridge from Mud Lake towards Lookout Mountain.
That's going out towards this direction. This is the Mud Lake, and that's working. That ridge line is going from east out to Lookout there.
So the first thing that we did was we reinforced that line with retardant to make it less flammable and less likely to burn hot. So we put that on with helicopters as well as with fixed wing planes, and there's some pictures of the red retardant on the ground.
It also reduces spots. If we had any issues with spot fires over this ridge line, retardant helps with that issue.
So that's a place with pretty thick fuel. Here's another place. This is from Lookout Mountain going towards the Polar Bear Mountain.
That's in this country, right? That's the picture's taken from right up here looking south.
So it's the fuels are shorter. The brush is about knee high, and it's higher there. It's about 5,000 feet elevation. So then we wanted to start low intensity fire to remove more of those fuels. The initial target was the south side of Lookout Mountain where that pink oval is drawn. And here's where it first got, that first place the fire was started. They used aerial ignition from a helicopter to get where the oval was. From the other side near the Mud Lake, you can see looking across at the Lookout Mountain how they continued extending that burn a little bit, and from the Mud Lake side they lit it by hand. So, and if you recall, along that Mud Lake side there were some hoses, they had some portable tanks there, so they could really control the fire behavior and cool it down if they needed to. And this is a video that shows what it looked like when that was going on.
That's basically a video that starts right in this section and works back east.
So there's some burn places where the soil is gray and the vegetation's been removed.
that's a great control line for keeping this fire to where if it does make a push up into this country, that it's gonna, if it does spot or anything, it's not gonna have any anything to spot into, and it's gonna slow the progression of the fire down. So that was the whole plan behind what we did there, or what operations we did there.
And they lit it up high and it kind of backed down the hill until it went out. And here's what that looked like at the end of the operation. You're looking out, Lookout Mountain's not on the picture, but Polar Bear Mountain is in the picture. And how some of that low vegetation's been scorched or removed, but the trees are still there. And then the next phase has been continuing south from Polar Bear Mountain. And most of that, there's that line of peaks that's mostly natural barriers. It's rock, there's not very much vegetation.
That's here.
So Lookout Mountain, Polar Bear Mountain, and several peaks that go down south in a line. And we had to check and see, are there pathways that the fire could spread, places that the vegetation's connected? And there were a couple of them identified.
Yeah, the first one there with the top yellow area is in this area, and operations secured that area with retardant 2 days ago. And then Cyclone VAP, that's right in here. That's where Klamath is right now, taking care of removing and taking care of putting some line in there to connect the dots on that second arrow.
So the contingency fire line, that's been another focus of work to make sure that the fire couldn't spread further to the west. Aaron's shown that on the maps a couple of times.
And
Road
then-
4803 and those dozer lines. And this is kind of some of the work you do making a contingency line. You make sure the road is accessible if you need to get firefighters up there. So they've done some grading. They did some clearing the brush that's right up against the road and chipping the slash that was created to make it a broader, more effective fire break if it's needed. The other thing we wanted to show you a couple of pictures of, people have been wondering, well, what is it like up there? How hard did it burn? What were the fire effects? And we just had a couple of pictures that we got sent in today. This shows a forested area. So even though there was brush and logs in there, the fire stayed low and was just a ground fire. Another place people have wondered about is Poker Flats. And they said, well, there was a picture taken about 3 weeks ago, but this one was taken this afternoon. This is what it... And that's the end of the pictures we prepared for you.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate all the work that, went into this southeast corner and getting this buttoned up. To get the evacuation warning lifted for you folks, to get some of the concerns when you guys initially we were here to relieve some of those concerns, and just the hard work that has been going in to keep this side of the fire secured from moving towards the town. You can see some of these interior lines that have been made black, that folks have gone in and taken care of around some of those homes that are still in the warning area. Just wanted to reiterate that. our focus, our primary focus, initial focus when we got here was working this east side. Now that we're getting this buttoned up, we're moving back around and making sure that this fire doesn't have any opportunity to make any runs like initially up towards these other communities. So we'll open it up for questions. I'll go with the lady up front here. She had her hand up first.
There was a possible heat source about 1.5 miles west or southwest in that Division J.
Yeah.
What did that turn out to be?
It was the crew in there last night. They probably had their jet boils going, and believe it or not, the infrared will pick that up. So that's where it was. That's where they're in there. So we spiked them out in there overnight last night, and it picked them up.
Okay.
So it was right in this area. It's happened before. So I noticed that first thing this morning when I was waking up at 5:30, putting the infrared on. It's like, well, that's where the boys are. That's where they are. Yes.
When are they gonna open the little road back up?
Well, that'll be operations call. Right now, just the evacuation orders have been lifted. Here in the town, we still have warning, and the forest closures are still in effect. So that will have to come through operations, through the team, through the forest, before those are opened back up. And it'll just be making sure, you know, that all the safety factors have been taken care of before we let the public back up into Doolittle onto the forest.
Repeat the question.
The question was, when will Doolittle be opened back up?
On your fire progression map, right behind you, on August 13th, does it have a date up there?
August 13th. Yes.
Okay, could you just run your pointer around the fire perimeter at that time?
At the Demonster.
No, I can't. It's maybe this.
No.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's this color, right? 641 acres of growth. So it's got to be on this side.
No, that's all your firing operations. So,
Yeah. Oh, right in here. Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
but above that
Here.
is in the green chartreuse area. That was.
Yeah. Before.
Okay, so is it true that this fire has doubled in size since you started your firing operations? It was on August 13th, it was 13,155 acres,
Yeah.
and it's now 2,607,
Yeah, that's true. You know, when this fire crossed over South Fork of Indian Creek and got established on this side, some of the same reasons that we can't get down in here and put firefighters at risk were the same concerns that they had in here. So they had the eclipse fire down here, a good anchor
So
place.
you burned all the way down.
We started up here and we burned back into.
Right.
They burned back into the South Fork of Indian Creek. Yep.
Okay. So
And that was to prevent this spot from getting ahead of steam and running into the town.
But now westward progression is your
Yep.
concern.
It is. This northwestward, this northwestward progression is our concern. This fire here down towards the south will more than likely keep shutting down into where it can't move anymore and burn past through the eclipse. And our concern now is for it to wrap around and come up.
So when you say you were anchoring all that fire down there, you were basically anchoring something you started?
No.
No. Okay, explain that to me. I don't understand.
Yeah, so we had this spot fire across the South Fork of the Indian Creek. All right, it was unsafe to get in there and contain it. It was going to grow faster than we had resources for to contain it. The next best logical thing was to pull back to a good anchor point, a place that we could light fire, and the fire can't wrap back around behind us and burn it back down into an anchor point or burn it back down into the fire to block that spot from running towards the town of Happy Camp. The reason this happened, folks, when this started happening, we were in a PL of 5. There was a lot of fires nationally going on. The resources were really spread to a lot of different fires around the area. So it wasn't like there was 5 hotshot crews available, or, 15 type, 15 engine, type 5 or type 3 strike teams of engines available. We had to utilize and kind of fall back to the best tactics that were gonna work for the amount of resources that we have.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Not really, but I'll go with it. The community of Sunstar,
Yes.
nobody's heard of this. I don't see private land up there. What is this place?
It's right here.
Yeah, I know, I see it on the maps all marked, but how many people live there?
I think there's 7 or 8 structures that are in this area.
Does anybody live there?
Yeah, they're all occupied.
Why isn't it, are they living on National Forest?
No, it's surrounded by national forest, but it's a private.
It doesn't show up as private property on any of the maps.
It's private.
Okay.
Delaware County doesn't mark like Siskiyou County will on National Forest land.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yes, we'll go with this guy, gentleman here, and then we'll just work back across the room.
Okay.
Do you know when you expect containment, full containment?
Full containment will probably be towards the middle to end of September, and it could be as late as the rains. Just have to wait and see. Yes, sir.
I was told like that black line is like 2 miles from the fire that you started and that you burned into that fire.
Which black line?
The main black line that protected Happy Camp.
This one?
There, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Is
That we
it
did
like
what?
a 2 mile
Yeah.
perimeter
I
that
didn't.
you burned into?
I didn't. I wasn't here when this thing spotted over.
And that's
Union Street,
and
but
that's
it was in here.
South Fork right there.
This is South Fork.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I
And it's
remember
spotted
that.
across, and that's what.
Okay.
That's when they pulled back to, like I said, this good acre point where we can start firing. We don't have to worry about fire coming back around us, and then blocked it with taking it back down into the South Fork Union Creek. Does that answer your question?
So my question is, the lady just said that they dropped to start fires and then it would go out going downhill. Then why did the Forest Service continue to use drip torches and backburn all the way down off of Grayback? Had it been left alone, logically, it would have went out, right?
No, the fire, if it has continuous fuels to move through, and our fire behavior analyst can speak to this better than I can, but if it has continuous fuels to back through and move through, it will, with as steep as this slope is, it rolls out, it gets into a log, it gets into a log, and it rolls down the hill, and it burns back up into itself. It continues to roll out and burn back up to itself, so it doesn't necessarily go out. There are places that it might back into that, backs into a natural barrier and goes out. But it won't necessarily always do that.
Maximum.
I know there were more questions on this side? Yes, sir.
I am not here to criticize the firefighters who have been out there. The questions that I have are probably directed at the forest supervisor. And when this fire first started, there was a line that separated the Klamath from the road. And there was 2 other fires that were very close that were on the Klamath. Our crews put them out. Our crews were ready to move on to the other fires, and they were given a stand down order. And I heard that from 3 people. And I would like to know who gave the stand down order and where it came from.
I don't think there was a stand down order.
I have video from Air Attack that there was a stand down.
Well,
And it had to do with jurisdiction between the road and Happy Camp. There was a crew that was there ready to go on it.
well, we had crews up there that were working up on the divide there, where it originally started, which isn't really marked on here, but it was kind of a little bit off, the top is where the original started. And there were crews from the road that were on their side. There weren't very many, because you gotta remember,
we had just put out 28 fires on the Klamath side with that lightning storm.
Well, I was just,
Let me finish. And so they were, and you know, my friends from the road were putting out 100 fires on their side. So, but they had people on that fire. We had people up there. We had our helicopter up there doing support. So, I mean, we can talk some more afterwards. You can tell me, you know, who I should follow up with in terms of what they saw. But that's
well, and they're sworn that they cannot testify that,
Well,
that they were given
not-
that order.
I'm not asking them.
Because they have a contract that they have to sign, that they cannot, criticize anybody that makes a decision.
Not just.
You don't sign a contract like
No,
that.
you know, if someone's flying air attack, they work for me. If someone's flying air attack, they work for me.
You have to
They're,
sign
they're,
one of those.
so,
So,
anyway.
Patty, I was also told by several firefighters, I'm not gonna say who, and I will not, but they put the fire out on Grayback. They had 3 teams and a 503 helicopter, and they were told to stand down. So, that is wrong.
Well,
You know, I don't give a damn if it did start in Oregon. They should be able to, they're all Forest Service.
Yeah.
Protect the people, and as I see it, there's been no protection of the people during this whole fire. Think of those kids that have had to play in the house all summer long, not enjoying the summer, going to the swimming holes, and still contained inside of a building when they start school, let alone us being forced to be prisoners in our homes because of the smoke and what it does to our health. And so, I don't know, when you say you're trying to protect lives, I don't know whose lives you're trying to protect.
Well,
Because you aren't ours.
Well, there's
The lung damage to people,
I've been living in Wairika all summer, and it's been
but this shouldn't have ever happened.
amazing. And the smoke has come from many different fires this year. So, again, you know, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. You know, I'd love to pull the thread to kind of learn a little bit more, but you know, the Rogue Siskiyou had crews up there. We had people up there. We had the helicopter up there. Sometimes you hear things over the radio, and you know, it's not the full story. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I didn't hear it over the radio. I
So,
heard it from individuals.
Okay.
I have one more question. How do you calculate the acreage for your maps? How do you gather the information to make these maps?
They fly in infrared.
Infrared?
Yeah.
Why do we get these cartoon drawings? Why can't we see infrared on the websites and stuff like that?
You can, man.
You can? I can? How?
It's ftp.gov.
We post it on
Yeah,
Instagram.
it's on there.
It's on the INSA website.
InstaWeb has maps. Where's the infrared?
That's on the.
We-
It's on the information that goes out every morning.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
I have
Great
one more.
question.
I have one more.
Yeah.
Out of the 26,000 acres that has burned, how much of that is in Oregon and how much of it's in California?
Good. That's another great question.
I think it's about 4,000 or 5,000 acres in Oregon. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
about right.
I would have to differ with that.
So pictorially, actually, there's nothing that burned in Oregon. Because right here is the state line, right here. We haven't quite got there. Now, if you ask the question of what burned on the Rogue Siskiyou versus what burned on the Klamath, that's this line right here. So this part of the fire was what burned on the Rogue Siskiyou, which they have land, they have real estate in California, and then everything from this down is what's on the Klamath. But nothing has burned, actually, it has just missed that state line right there.
How come they say it started in Oregon and it's Oregon's fire then?
That's a little bit of a confusion. It started in Region 6, which is the Rogue Siskiyou, which a lot of people don't understand. The Rogue Siskiyou, the Region 6, has real estate in California. It's very simple understanding as a generic term that the Oregon-California border is the Region 5, Region 6 line. But in this case, as well as over here at Mount Ashland area, there are these little tiny pockets that come into California.
So Scott, question, Road 30 had a logging crew out there and it was pretty well a clear cut. Why wasn't the fire stopped there instead of using the drip torches and bringing it on down the hill?
And I don't have an answer for that one, Ruth. Offhand, I don't. I'm not that familiar with that level of detail on the ground, so I don't have an answer for that. But, so we have a couple of cooperators here that we would need to give some input or some opportunity to give some information or feedback. So one of them is Eric Haskell, the local fire chief.
Just same thing, we still got face masks, if you feel you need them, come see me. We're still supplying them at the Marble Mountain Gift Shop also. Try to breathe clean air is all I can tell you.
And Deputy Garrison.
Yeah, the only thing I have is, I think most everybody's already aware, that last night the evacuation order was changed to a warning for those several residences in that area. Then the warning was lifted. So that's the reason.
And
Forest is still closed in those areas, but as far as like return to homes and going to properties, that's okay.
I'll get you just a second. One last individual that snuck in on me is the FMO, Fire Management Officer from Wild Rivers on the Rogue Siskiyou on the other side. If Monty, you want to say anything?
Just that I'm here to help answer questions if you have any about the initial attack phase of this. I'm just here as information, so help you out.
Are you still doing night burn? And if, no.
No, there's no night operations going on. All the operations going on out in this country around whole fires during the day shift.
Defining question. The warning was lifted, but you said it's still in place for residences. Can you define what exactly that is?
Right in here, there's 5 residences still within this burn area. Actually, it incorporates this resident as well.
Okay, is that the FN 32 side or the other side as well?
So it's the people that were under the evacuation order
Okay,
have been downgraded to a warning.
okay.
So
Is that, and for the rest of us, it was lifted?
Yes.
So I get to move back in right on.
That's a good thing. Yes, sir.
If there's 425 people on the fire, how many are active forest firefighters?
Active forest firefighters, all of us, sir.
But I mean, isn't there a lot of support personnel?
Yeah, we are, but we all go through the training. We're all firefighters. We're just in different roles. My job is superintendent of a hotshot crew, but I'm coming here as a role of an IC, so we're all firefighters.
Now, is this an error that you have 66 helicopters rather than 6 on the state first? Okay.
I didn't notice that too, Ruth.
So anyway, my question would be, as I understand it, there is a blue gel now that they can drop to smother the fires rather than retarding, and that it no longer harms the fish or the streams. Is that true?
There is a blue gel that is used, and it's more or less a dye, but it's a retardant too.
Right,
It's used for the same exact thing as the fusion retardant.
Why aren't the helicopters flying and putting that out to smother rather than trying to force it over that way?
No, we are. We're keeping, if we need to, operations is running, they are running helicopters down in here to keep it in check, but we can't put firefighters down. It has to be followed up with firefighters on the ground. It's not gonna just do it on its own. So they'll come in here and, check it up with the retardant, which allows and buys time for us to then get the ignitions going around the top end so it can't make a run. But we cannot put the fire out with just retardant. It has to be followed up with boots on the ground. Just one.
Sorry, how long is the life of the retardant that you are putting down on these brakes?
Yeah, that's another good question. This stuff that we put down here a couple days ago, it will dry out, but it just takes, a drop from a helicopter to re-engage it.
Okay.
And that could be, out to a week, be a week long. I just want to real quick, and I missed this at the beginning, I just want to introduce a few of the team folks that are in here. So you guys know who to go ask questions to after this, if that's all right. We got Incident Commander Brian Gels.
Good evening, everybody.
We got Pat Alford, Operations Section Chief, Field Ops, and Bill is our trainee, Operations Section Chief. Dean is our Fire Behavior, and Andy is our Weather. And am I missing anyone from the team? Oh, I'm sorry, Information is Karen. Sorry.
That's okay.
So, sorry to do this right at this time, but I just wanted to make sure you guys knew, put a face with the name.
Can we hear from the weatherman? What's?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Andy, and then we'll go into Dino.
Hi, I'm Andy Hayner. I'm the incident meteorologist on the incident. This is my 9th day out here. Actually, I first pulled in on August 21st. I came down from Seattle. This is my 5th California fire over the 15 years that I've been going out to fires. But, you know, I heard somebody make a comment about the smoke, and yeah, it really it really sucks to have to stay inside. I know the day that I came down here, you know, drove a couple 100 miles south to get here, and the entire way down from Seattle to all the way to Happy Camp, the visibility in smoke was anywhere from about 1 to 3 miles the entire way down. So when I first got here on the 21st of August, it wasn't just the smoke from the Natchez Fire or the Klondike Fire. Actually, we were dealing with basically a mass of Canadian smoke. Let's blame the Canadians. But anyway, we were dealing with this mass of Canadian smoke. It was formed from wildfires up in northwestern British Columbia, and basically came down through British Columbia, and then pretty much came straight down I-5 over the course of about 3 days. Before getting in here, and you know, it made huge regional news. It pretty much made the national news. The amount of smoke that was across so much of the Northwest and the Western U.S. And so I know even at home, you know, people were staying inside and wearing masks and that kind of thing. So that was something that I heard over the course of things that I wanted to at least mention. This, you know, the smoke that's in the air now, that is from pretty much our fire and the Klondike Fire off to the north. Actually, we had smoke in here yesterday from the Hearth Fire, which is over near on the north side of Lake Shasta right now. So a lot of times the smoke that comes in here, it's from other fires too. As far as the weather though, actually earlier today I looked back at the 3 nearest weather stations that are closest to our fire, and not a single one has had measurable rainfall over the past 30 days. So that's pretty incredible. Of course, this is typically a dry time of year, but still you would expect at least a few drops of rain.
No.
Well, even from a thunderstorm.
Lived here 30 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, nothing is recorded rain for the last 30 days, and there's no rain in the forecast for the next 7 days. Today is the coolest and most humid day in this stretch of weather. So from here moving forward, pretty much through at least Monday, the weather's going to be getting warmer and drier. In fact, it looks like by Saturday night we're going to be looking at some offshore flow developing, and as you know that's the warm and dry direction around here. So by the time we get to Sunday and Monday, temperatures are going to be running probably about 10 degrees above normal for this time of year, and that'll, especially out across the ridge tops, that'll be coming with some gusty winds as well. And really what happens from Tuesday beyond, the confidence in the forecast is pretty low in that today. One piece of guidance I was looking at shows the hot, dry weather continuing all the way through Wednesday, but another piece of guidance that I was showing shows a turn to onshore flow by Tuesday with cooler and more humid weather. So I usually say don't trust a weather forecast that's more than 4 days out in the future, and so I think we'll have to stick with that today. But anyway.
What are the projected wind speeds?
And smoke.
As far as wind speeds are
And
concerned,
directions, yeah.
yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, the prevailing direction is going to be out of the northeast, especially as we get into Sunday and Monday morning. It looks like Monday morning, that's going to be probably the worst of it. I think Monday morning, you know, of course, relative humidity typically comes up at night. But that's a morning where I think, especially out on some of the ridge tops and some of the high elevations out there, relative humidity that night may rise to only about 25% that night. So you asked about smoke, and let's see, let me think about this. Of course, here in town today, the smoke hasn't been too bad. Actually, this is the second day in a row where smoke from the Klondike fire has been smoking out Grants Pass in Medford. It's been heading across up there. Actually, I know the air quality in Grants Pass yesterday was in the hazardous category. Is that right, Ed?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's been staying off to the north. It does look like over the next couple of days. What was your run showing? What was your run showing for the Klondike smoke for tomorrow?
For tomorrow, there's a good possibility there will be more smoke from the Klondike coming south and west.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to directly impact us or be more further towards Hornbrook, Wairika, and that area, it's not clear yet. I'll know more in the morning when I run the model again, but it is going to be coming into Oregon starting tomorrow.
Yeah. As we get into the weekend, you know, with that offshore flow, actually with the most recent offshore flow, we had some offshore flow on Tuesday morning of this week, and you might remember Tuesday was the day that we had just like clean, pristine air here in Happy Camp. I mean, it almost hurt to see how blue the sky was that day. So actually that would almost be the kind of weather that we'd be looking for. It's kind of interesting when you get into that pattern in your coastal communities like, you know, Brookings and Crescent City and Arcata. That's when they get their really poor air quality out on the coast. But here, you know, we ended up with pristine air during that last episode here in town. But then, yeah, usually once that's done, you know, the flow starts to turn a little more southerly. Thankfully, we don't have any big fires to our south. But during that transition, that's the kind of situation where some of the smoke from the Hearth fire over near Lake Shasta could work its way in here for a day. Yeah, smoke is fickle. Cool. Any other questions? Cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy.
Good evening, my name is Dean Warner. I'm the fire behavior analyst with Team 13. I'm going to talk to you about how the fire is burning and why it's burning in the way it is. Some fires burn with the wind, some fires burn with topography, but in this particular situation, this particular fire is burning with just fuels, because the fuels are so dry out there. All ranges and categories of fuels out there are extremely dry. And just over the course of us being, the Team 13 being in place here, our live fuel moistures have even dropped so far so that the fire is even consuming the brush fuels as well. 2 weeks ago, not much of the brush was burning, only certain kinds were burning. But right now, those shrub fuels are burning very well and contributing rather well to the fire. So, fuels fires are interesting in the fact that they're just driven by the fire, and that is the main reason why we've had a low intensity fire and we've had good fire effects out there on the landscape. Low scorch height on the trees, and that just offers up a better and easier recovery for the forest instead of it burning out completely with white, hot ash and snagged trees. Not that there aren't going to be some dead trees out there, but that's a component that the environment likes too, because the animals and bugs can get into those snags, the animals go after those bugs, and there's a better recovery there. More diversity for the forest, if you will. So that's a reason why we see those fire effects. Now on to where the fire is going and where it's heading. Aaron talked about the fire progressing south towards the perimeters of last year's eclipse fire, and it holding up really well on that. And that's verified really well by the fact that you see some donut holes in the map there, and that's basically fire from last year and our fire this year burning around it. So that's good verification that the fire is going to hold up on those old fire scars. Then also, with the fire moving towards the west, towards the Preston Peak and Lookout Mountain area here, as the fire progresses towards that direction, the fuels get much more sparse. You saw a picture there where you saw the rocks and the fuel break, natural fuel breaks out there. And the fire is going to enter into some areas where the fuels are more sparse and less likelihood then of the fire then getting across that range itself. And also, you heard about the operations then going on in those gaps then that we've pre-identified as areas where there is fuel that is continuous through those gaps, and so operations has put things into place to put a gap there, some other kind of tactic we've identified and put into place so that the fire then doesn't get across those as well. We also have been seeing, and not so much with Andy's forecast, is the wind direction. And easterly wind direction has been rare for us. And given climatology records, an east wind is a rare thing in this particular area, plus the fact that it's very well sheltered from the general wind pattern as well. So we're not seeing the ability of the fire to be driven by the wind. Another reason why we're confident that the fire won't go beyond that natural fuel break. And also we've been doing some computer modeling as well, looking at what the probability is for that fire to reach certain points. And we've been running those probability models practically on a daily basis, and it's been verifying what we've been seeing out there in the field as well. So with all those reasons, we have fairly high confidence that with the strategic methods and strategies we put into place, that the fire won't get beyond this Lookout Mountain to Preston Peak range, and it'll be held up on the old fire scars as well. And that's all I have for the fire behavior. As far as the future, we're just expecting the fire to move into those areas. Another interesting fact is, you can see these fingers coming out here. The fire wants to burn on southern aspects as well. So it's not burning on northern aspects. So it's basically taking out half the amount of fuel just on aspect alone as well. So another reason why the fire is expected to check up and hold up on that natural barriers and on the southern fire perimeters as well. Any questions?
Yeah, when do you expect the roads to be open in those areas to the public?
That is an operational question.
Will they be closed off during hunting season?
I would have to defer to my operational people. I simply deliver data to my people so that they can make good tactical decisions. But certainly I'm sure that question can be answered by Liz.
I'll just take. Good evening, everybody. So, as you all know, there's 400 and some odd people out there working. In order to open up the forest for you folks, for the hunters, for the recreationists, we gotta make sure all those roads are snagged, that the hazards for the public are taken care of. We have the operations chiefs that will work with the forest and Patty and her staff to determine when it's safe to allow folks to go in there. The last thing we want to have happen is a tree come over and hit somebody. So that's why they're closed right now, and they'll remain closed until the forest supervisor and the fire team and the local FMO, fire management officer, feel it's safe for you all to be in there. That's just the bottom line. I mean, I'd love to say we'd open it up tomorrow, but it's just, we don't want to put people's lives in danger and have a tree come down. It could be a snag, it could be a green tree. The fire as they back through that area, some of those trees that are green have rotten root systems and they'll come over. You've seen it on the news this summer with a couple, 3 firefighters getting killed by snags out there working that area. And the last thing we want to do is have anyone in this community or any of the other communities in the western states that are burning right now have that happen to them. So I know it requires patience. I can appreciate that, and I can sympathize with it. But the last thing we want to have is someone get injured or killed up there.
Well, I guess I was wondering also is with the fire danger being so high, has there been any thought to just closing the forest roads off totally during hunting season?
I can't speak to that. I'd have to defer that to Patty.
Yeah, no, haven't really talked about that at all. That'd be pretty unusual for up here. I mean, typically what we do is we close areas to having campfires, so, you know, that kind of thing. And typically this time of year, you know, we're sort of getting into a fall pattern, and you know, the fire danger is gonna start to abate because the days are shorter, you know, a little cooler, although Andy just told us it's gonna get hot again. So, haven't really talked about that at all, no.
So I'd be happy to answer questions as a group, or we can break up and get up on the map here with y'all and talk to some specific questions with you. I think that we're at that point where we can do that and comfortably ask questions and share information. I'm happy to learn from you all. Our team goes around the country, and it's good for me to learn from the experiences that you have, listen to these weather patterns like the lady over here was speaking to, about 30 years of no rain in the month of August. So I like to learn about those local environmental conditions, so when we come back, we have better knowledge of what we're dealing with. And so I'm happy to visit with you all afterwards. I really appreciate your patience. I know that it's stressful. I can't imagine what you're going through. We're here to help. We're here to support the forest and all the hard work that those men and women have been doing, because I know they've been busting their butts since June when fire season started in the west, and they do help out all across, and their focus is here, but you know, they go all over the place to help communities like yours to do what we can to get the smoke out as soon as we can and get people back into the woods so you can enjoy the natural resource.
Well, we do need to commend those firefighters out there. It's not an easy life, easy job.
And we pass that message on to those men and women every morning out there that, you know, in the morning briefing, they hear it loud and clear about how appreciative you all are, and, you know, they risk it every day, and they get out there and do that hard work in those environmental and geographic conditions, and it's not easy, like you said, so we owe them that gratitude. They work hard, and they earn a living doing that. So thank you all for coming out. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to visiting with you if you'd like.